To go in, you had to be 65, you had to be living, you had to be dead. You know, they've always changed. We're trying to get it right. And Scratch DeFazio passed away in 1996, and he would have been a first ballot guy, and he wasn't eligible. So we tried to, in the selection committee, we tried to address that and put him where he rightfully belongs with his peers and his friends. Growing up in the McNamara family, we had batting practice all the time. And if you hit a line drive, my dad and my uncles would say, "Way to go, Scratch. Way to go, Scratch." Now, I didn't really have a point of reference to that, and then I found out later that it was Scratch was such a great hitter. And now to this day, whenever I see someone at the line drive, I say, "Way to go, Scratch. Way to go, Scratch." It's a great way to remember this man. It's just, obviously, as you can see by the DeFazio clan, has had such a huge impression and impact on Sacramento. And it's my pleasure to introduce to you Steve DeFazio to accept the award on behalf of his family. Scratch DeFazio into the Hall of Fame. Steve?
Thank you. About a year ago, I had a conversation with my mom, and she said to me that before her and my dad got married, she assumed he was going to quit playing baseball when they had kids. And I started laughing. I didn't mean to, but it was funny. And then she said that she was glad that he enjoyed it as much as he did and played as long as he did, and that it was a good thing she didn't say anything. We knew my dad was a popular guy when we were kids because no matter where we'd go, somebody would always yell out, "Hey, Scratch." So by the time we were about 10, we realized that if you played baseball in the Sacramento area in the last 20 years or so, that you knew Scratch. That didn't necessarily mean you liked him. His competitive nature could get the best of him at times. But when he was on the ball diamond, he expected your best. He had one thing on his mind: he wanted to win. And he expected your best effort, even if you were on the opposing team. And we all knew that our father's relationship with umpires had room for improvement. Quite a bit of room, actually. And we knew that when we were young as well, because sometimes on the way to the car, one of us would ask, "Mommy, why are we leaving? The other guys are still playing." Like I said, he had a competitive spirit. He could be difficult, and we knew that. But he enjoyed watching his kids play. And he went to hundreds of games in his life. We all played at one time or another. He was always very supportive, never put a lot of pressure on us. Just do the best you can and have a good time. Never said much whether we did good or bad, unless you struck out looking. And then you were going to hear about it. Because to him, that was insulting. You know, he'd say, "Swing the bat. It doesn't have to be that good of a pitch." And he was right. It made us better players. He was always willing to work with us, whether it was just to go out and play catch or go down to Tahoe Park and hit something. Which meant that we all got 10 swings and Dad was going to hit for an hour and a half. Some of the best times we ever had. He was different at home. You know, we kind of knew what to expect. He was just Dad. He was comfortable. He and my mom were married for over 40 years, and I never saw him argue. And I know that it was because of our mother. But she had a way of making my dad feel like he was the boss, even when he wasn't. And he had a great relationship with his daughters, loved them, respected them. And I'm sure there were times when there was a stern word, but I never saw him raise his voice to my sisters. But he had 4 sons. And my brothers and I can tell you from experience that he could be intimidating. By the time that we were 16 or 17 years old, we were all as tall or taller than he was. and he could care less. And there were times when, many times, that we'd be looking down at him, and he'd have his hand on our shoulder, and you knew you were going to do exactly what he said. Scratch had a good grip. And sometimes he'd smile at you like he wanted you to try something, but we never did. He played baseball until he was 50, at a pretty good level. He was still competitive, but I think at that time he was just spending time with his buddies that he made over the last 30 years playing. It's more of a social thing, but he really enjoyed it and had a lot of fun. And by the time that he was 60, his health had changed dramatically. He had a stroke, and he was in the hospital for about 3 months, and then rehab for about a year after that. And I knew that our father was the guy who was a hard worker and could get things done, but I never saw him work that hard. He was determined, and I know that he did it because he didn't want to be a burden to my mom or his family. He just worked hard, got to a point where he was pretty good, and had some quality in his life. My uncles gave my dad the nickname Scratch when they were young kids. And I don't think they knew how accurate they were. I looked up the definition of scratch in the dictionary, and it says, to mark or scrape the surface by using force. And I thought it should have had his picture next to it. Our father had a good life. He found a way to balance his work, his 6 kids, his family, brothers and sisters, nieces and nephews that he loved a lot. He had a lot of favorite nieces and nephews. And we were all pretty close. He found a good balance in that. And I think that my father was satisfied with the way things turned out for him and his family. I looked at the list of the names of all the people that have been inducted into the Southland Hall of Fame over the last 60 years. And it's who's who in Sacramento area baseball. Names that we all know. We've seen a lot of them play. And on behalf of my father, Richard Scratch DeFazio, my family and I are proud to be a part of it. Thank you.